300 grams of fresh reindeer blood. Warm, thick, with a taste of iron and life. This is a daily dose of vitamins that replaces a pharmacy, a supermarket, and a doctor all at once for the Evenki people. -50 outside the tent wall, and a person drinks the blood of a freshly slaughtered reindeer and smiles. Because for him, this is not savagery. This is breakfast. I stand nearby and feel the frost gnawing through 3 layers of my jacket. My fingers in gloves have already stopped obeying. But Ilkin, my guide, holds the knife with bare hands and does not even flinch. He is 47 years old. He was born in the taiga, grew up among reindeer, and in his entire life has never once been to a hospital. Not once. His teeth are whiter than mine, his hands are stronger than mine, and his blood pressure, as he says, is perfect. The secret is simple. Reindeer blood. The Evenki. One of the last nomadic peoples of the Arctic. Fewer than 40,000 of them remain, scattered across a territory larger in area than Western Europe. From the Yenisei to the Sea of Okhotsk, from Baikal to the Arctic Ocean. They herd reindeer, hunt, fish, and live the way their ancestors lived 500 years ago. Well, almost. Some of them now have satellite phones, but they still drink their blood fresh. I ended up here by accident. A helicopter, then a snowmobile, then 6 hours on a sled. A sled, for those who do not know, is a kind of Arctic sleigh pulled by reindeer. No shock absorbers. Every rock under the snow hits you straight in the spine. After 6 hours, I felt as though I had been put through a washing machine on the spin cycle. And Dorima, Ilkin's wife, met me at the tent with a mug of hot tea and a quiet smile. She is 2 heads shorter than me, weighs probably about 50 kilograms, but hauls bundles of firewood that I cannot lift. She is 43. She has 4 children. The eldest son, Amikan, already herds the flock himself. He is 17, and he looks as though he was born in the saddle. Well, in a reindeer saddle. First morning, 6 o'clock. Darkness. In December, it does not get light here until 10, and even then, not for long. 4 hours of gray twilight, and then night again. I crawl out of my sleeping bag and immediately realize I have made a mistake. The air inside the tent is about 15 degrees, but the moment you stick your nose past the flap, -48 hits you in the face like a fist. Ilkin is already on his feet. He lights a fire in the iron stove in the middle of the tent. Smoke rises upward, toward the opening in the cone of the roof. It smells of larch firewood and something else. Something meaty, warm, thick. It is yesterday's broth from reindeer bones which Dorima placed on the stove. Cooking, Dorima says quietly. One word, but I understand. Today is a big day. Today is the slaughter. I had heard about this before, read about it in books, watched it in documentaries. But it is one thing to read, and another to stand right there and watch as a person with one movement of a knife decides the fate of an animal that he himself raised, himself named, himself treated for illness. This is not cruelty. This is a contract. The reindeer gives life to the person gives life to the reindeer. Without the Evenki, these reindeer would not survive in the taiga. Without the reindeer, the Evenki would not survive at -50. Symbiosis. Like a clownfish and an anemone, only on the scale of millennia and at a temperature that cracks metal. Ilkin's herd is about 120 head, not many by Evenki standards. Some families have 500, even 1,000. But Ilkin says that 120 is the right number. You can know each reindeer personally. You can notice if one is limping or coughing. You can take your time. We go out to the corral. The reindeer stand in a tight group, breathing steam. 120 pairs of eyes look at us. 120 pairs of antlers are covered in frost. In the half-darkness of the December morning, they look like a ghostly army. I stop and simply watch. Amikan walks past me, easily stepping over a snowdrift in which I am stuck up to my knee. "This one," says Ilkin, pointing to a large bull in the center of the herd. The bull stands calmly. He does not know. or he knows but accepts it. I cannot read the expression in a reindeer's eyes, but Ilkin, it seems, can. He explains his choice to me. This bull is 7 years old. For a domestic reindeer, that is a mature age. He has already produced offspring, 4 calves over the last 3 years. His left hind leg was injured last winter when the herd was fleeing from wolves. The bull limps. Not badly, but enough to slow the herd during migrations. And migrations here are life. The Evenks move camp up to 20 times a year, driving the reindeer from pasture to pasture. A lame reindeer is a reindeer that slows everyone down. I would never have noticed the limp. To me, all reindeer look the same. Gray-brown, antlered, with big, sad eyes. But Ilkin sees each one as an individual. That one, with the white spot on its forehead, is Boron, the leader. That little cow on the right is Sikta. She was born last spring and still clings to her mother. And that bull with the injured leg is Girkan. His name means walker. An irony that Ilkin, it seems, does not notice. The preparation for the slaughter takes longer than the slaughter itself. Ilkin takes out his knife. Not some fancy hunting knife from a catalog. An ordinary Evenks knife that his father forged from a piece of a leaf spring 30 years ago. The blade is about 20 centimeters long, slightly curved, sharpened to a razor's edge. The handle is made of birch burl, darkened by time and blood. This knife has butchered more reindeer than I have seen in my entire life. Darima brings the vessels. A large enamel basin, 3 aluminum mugs, a wooden spatula. Everything clean, everything ready. She spreads a piece of tarpaulin on the snow. Amikan brings a rope. I stand to the side and feel useless, like a spectator in a theater who has accidentally wandered backstage. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone moves precisely and economically. Not a single unnecessary step, not a single unnecessary word. Ilkin approaches Gherkin. The reindeer does not run. He knows Ilkin. He has eaten bread from his hands. Ilkin strokes the bull's neck, whispers something. I cannot hear the words, but I see his lips moving. Then he turns to me. We give thanks, he says. Always. Amikan throws the rope. The reindeer jerks, but not much. More from surprise than from fear. Ilkin places his hand on its side. The reindeer calms down. And then everything happens very quickly. One precise strike of the knife. The jugular vein. Blood gushes into the basin held beneath. Hot, dark red, almost black against the white snow. Steam rises from it, as if from boiling water. The reindeer sinks to its knees, then collapses onto its side. The eyes glaze over. Silence. The entire process took about 15 seconds. I did not even have time to blink. A strange thought spins in my head. I have watched people in a supermarket choose a steak for 20 minutes. Turning the package over, reading the ingredients, comparing prices. And here a person in 15 seconds has obtained meat, blood, hide, sinew, bones, and fat. An entire supermarket in one reindeer. But the blood. Blood is the first thing they take. Darima is already standing with a mug. She scoops from the basin and hands it to Ilkin. He drinks. Not in one gulp, slowly, in small sips, like a fine wine. Then Amikan. Then Darima. Then the mug is offered to me. I look at the dark liquid. It is still warm. Steam curls above the mug. The smell is like raw meat, but sharper, with a metallic tang that I can sense even before I bring the mug to my lips. Drink, says Darima. You will be warm. I drink, and it is the strangest experience of my life. The taste is salty, thick, with a tang of iron. The consistency is like liquid yogurt. A warm wave passes down my throat, down my esophagus, spreads through my stomach. And I truly feel warmth, not imagined, real. As if someone has switched on a heater inside me. Ilkin laughs, looking at my face. Apparently my expression was quite something. A mixture of horror, surprise, and unexpected pleasure. Science, by the way, confirms what the Evenki have known for thousands of years. Fresh reindeer blood contains iron at a concentration 5 times higher than that in beef liver, plus B vitamins that are impossible to obtain from any other food in Arctic conditions, plus proteins that are absorbed almost instantly, plus something that scientists have not yet found a name for, but that makes a person feel a surge of energy in the cold. The Evenki do not know the word avitaminosis. They do not know what scurvy is, even though they live at the same latitudes where entire expeditions died from it. Russian polar explorers of the 18th century lost their teeth and perished from hemorrhaging, while the Evenki who lived nearby were perfectly healthy. The difference? The former drank tea, the latter drank blood. But the slaughter is only the beginning. The most interesting part comes next, the butchering. Ilkin kneels beside the carcass, knife in his right hand. His left hand feels the hide, finds the right spot. The first cut runs from the throat down along the belly, straight, as if drawn with a ruler. The hide parts, revealing a layer of fat, yellow, dense, 2 fingers thick. This fat is Arctic gold. It will be used for cooking, for grease, for medicine, for candles. Nothing will go to waste. Amikan helps remove the hide. They work together, silently, in sync, like surgeons in an operation. The knife separates the hide from the meat with short, precise movements. The sound is like tearing heavy fabric. The hide comes off whole, in one piece. Darima immediately spreads it on the snow, fur side down. The inner surface steams in the frost. This hide will become a rug, or a blanket, or part of clothing. Reindeer hide is 6 times warmer than sheep's wool. I discovered this from personal experience. My jacket with synthetic insulation costs as much as a used car and is rated for -40. At -48, I shiver. Ilkin in his parka made of reindeer hides, which costs nothing but labor, stands calmly and even unbuttons his collar. He is hot. I am cold. That is the entire difference between technology and wisdom. The internal organs are extracted with surgical precision. First the liver. Dark burgundy, smooth, the size of both my palms. Ilkin cuts off a piece and hands it to me. "Eat it now," he says. "Later it will not be the same." I eat. Raw reindeer liver at -48. It is warm inside and already freezing on the outside. The taste is soft, almost sweet. Nothing in common with that tough, bitter liver from the store. It is like comparing wild strawberries with supermarket ones. Not even the same species. Then the heart. Then the kidneys. Then the lungs. Each organ is carefully separated and placed in a separate container. The stomach is rinsed with snow and set aside. The intestines too. They will later be made into casing for sausage. The bladder will become a vessel for storing fat. Even the stomach contents, half-digested lichen, are not thrown away. They will be mixed with blood and fat to make a dish called vilmoulimon. I will try it later and be surprised that it is delicious. Ilkin has been working with the knife for 40 minutes now. His arms are covered in blood up to the elbows. It freezes on his sleeves, forming an icy crust. But he does not stop. Every movement has been honed by generations. His father taught him. His grandfather taught his father. And so on back to the times when knives were made of stone and reindeer were being domesticated for the first time. The meat is separated from the bones in large pieces. The hind legs are the most valuable parts. A reindeer haunch weighs about 8 kilograms and contains meat that rivals the finest veal in tenderness. The front legs are tougher. They will go into stew and broth. The ribs are removed as a whole slab. The spine is chopped into sections. Bones. This is what amazed me most of all. In the city, bones are garbage. Here, bones are treasure. Tubular bones contain marrow. Ilkin will crack them open later, in the evening, by the stove. Reindeer bone marrow is pure fat with vitamins. It is eaten with a spoon, like butter, or spread on flatbread. Flat bones will be made into tools. A shoulder blade can become a scraper for hides. Ribs can become runners for children's sleds. Antlers are a separate story. They are carved into knife handles, buttons, amulets, children's toys. I count. Meat, blood, fat, hide, liver, heart, kidneys, lungs, stomach, intestines, bladder, bones, bone marrow, antlers, sinew, hooves. 16 categories of useful material from one animal. In a supermarket, from a cow they take meat and milk. The rest is waste. Here, there is no waste. Zero. Even the blood that dripped onto the snow is later collected together with the snow and frozen. It will be made into blood porridge. Darima has already carried the liver and some of the meat into the tent. From there comes the smell of smoke and something incredibly delicious. My stomach growls so loudly that Amikan turns around and smirks. Hunger, he says. That is good. It means you are alive. He is 17, and he is already a philosopher. Or simply an Evenk. 2 hours later, the carcass is completely butchered. On the snow lie neat piles of meat, organs, bones. The hide is stretched out and dusted with snow. The blood in the basin has already frozen into a dark red disc. It will later be broken into pieces and stored as a vitamin reserve. One such disc is roughly 20 servings. I survey the slaughter site. Almost nothing remains on the snow, only a pink spot where the reindeer lay. In an hour, fresh snow will cover it, and there will be no trace at all, as if nothing happened. But in the tent, there is now food for 2 weeks, clothing for the next winter, tools for a year. All from one reindeer. We go into the tent. After the frost, the warmth of the stove feels like an embrace. Darima has already cut the meat into thin strips and hung them over the fire. This will become dried meat, Evenki field rations that keep for months and weigh 5 times less than fresh meat. The perfect food for nomads. On the stove, a pot is bubbling. Broth from bones and cartilage. Rich, hearty, with a film of golden fat on the surface. Darima pours me a bowl. I clasp it with both hands, warming my fingers, and drink. The taste is deep, complex, with notes of smoke and pine. This is the best soup I have ever eaten in my life, and I am not exaggerating. Ilkin sits down beside me. His hands have been washed with snow. He eats slowly, with focus, with an expression of calm satisfaction. Like a craftsman who has finished his work and knows he has done it well. Good reindeer, he says. Fat. This is the highest praise. In a world where fat means survival, to call a reindeer fat is like calling a diamond flawless. I sit in the tent, drink broth, and think about what I saw today. About blood that replaces a pharmacy. About a knife that replaces an entire set of surgical instruments. About a hide that is warmer than any synthetic material. About people who live at -50 and do not complain. Who know every reindeer by name. Who thank the animal before taking its life. Outside the tent wall, the wind howls. The temperature has dropped to -52, and I am warm. Maybe it is the broth. Maybe it is the stove. Or maybe it is that mug of reindeer blood I drank this morning. An elixir of survival. 300 grams of life in every sip. Hooves clatter on the frozen ground like 100 little drums. The herd is moving. We are migrating. The 3rd day of the journey, and I finally understand why the Evenki do not build houses. Why build a house when the whole world is your home? When reindeer are your refrigerator, pharmacy, wardrobe, and transportation all in one? When you can take apart your dwelling in 40 minutes, load it onto sleds, and set it up again in an hour at a new site. The tent is an engineering masterpiece. 25 poles of larch, each about 4 meters long. A covering of reindeer hides sewn together with sinew. The entire structure weighs about 80 kilograms and fits on 2 sleds. Yet it withstands wind up to 30 meters per second and maintains +15 inside when it is -50 outside. I would like to see a modern architect replicate this on a budget of zero and with materials from the forest. Darima sets up the tent alone, without help. I offer to assist and receive a polite refusal in the form of a slight shake of the head. She drives the first 3 poles into the snow, ties the tops together, then adds the rest one by one. The movements are automatic, precise, beautiful, like a dance. I try to memorize the sequence and lose track at the 7th pole. Darima is already on the 20th. The covering is stretched over the frame. The hides are heavy, stiffened by the frost. Darima handles them as though they were silk. 20 minutes, and the tent is standing. Inside, she lights a fire in the stove, and within 10 minutes I take off my hat. Warm. The smoke goes up through the opening. Firelight dances on the walls of hide. It smells of resin and smoke. Cozier than any hotel I have ever stayed in. But now is not the time for coziness. Amikan calls me outside. Wolves. He points to tracks. I see impressions in the snow. To me, they are just impressions. To Amikan, they are a book. 4 wolves, he says. 2 large, 2 young. They walked parallel to the herd, last night. They did not attack, just watched. I ask how he knows there are 4. He looks at me with that patient expression adults have when children ask obvious questions. 4 tracks, he says. Different sizes. Well, yes, logical. But I would have walked right past those tracks and noticed nothing. And Amikan read in them the number, size, age, and intentions of the wolves. He is a 17-year-old tracker who knows the taiga better than I know my own neighborhood in the city. Wolves are the main threat to the herd. Not the frost, not disease, not hunger. Wolves. They are smart, patient, and persistent. They can follow a herd for weeks, waiting for the right moment. A sick reindeer, a stray calf, a second of inattention from the herder. 1 successful lunge, and the herd is -1 head. Ilkin loses on average 5 to 7 reindeer a year to wolves. That is a lot. Every reindeer is meat, hide, blood. Every loss is a blow to the family. That is why Ilkin sleeps lightly. That is why the dogs are always near the herd. That is why Amikan checks the tracks every morning. Dogs. I have not yet told you about the dogs. Ilkin has 4 Lycas, black, lean, with pointed ears and yellow eyes. They are not house pets. They are colleagues, partners. They guard the herd, help with hunting, and warm their owners at night by lying beside them in the tent. A dog's body temperature is 39 degrees. 4 dogs are 4 living heaters. The oldest is called Bira, which means river. She is 11 years old and blind in 1 eye, but her sense of smell is such that she can detect a wolf from 2 kilometers away. When Bira starts growling, Ilkin grabs his rifle. No questions asked. Bira does not make mistakes. On the evening of the 2nd day of the migration, Ilkin shows me how blood sausage is made. This is a recipe that is hundreds of years old. The blood collected during the slaughter and frozen into a disc is broken into pieces. It is mixed with finely chopped fat and wild onion that Darima gathered in summer and dried. The mixture is stuffed into a cleaned reindeer intestine and boiled in a pot. I watch the process and think about how in fashionable restaurants, blood sausage costs outrageous sums and is considered a delicacy. And here it is an ordinary dinner. Everyday food. Fuel for life at -50. The sausage is ready. Darima cuts it into thick rounds. Dark on the outside, almost black. Burgundy on the inside with white flecks of fat. I take a bite. The taste is rich, slightly salty, with a mild sharpness from the wild onion. The texture is dense but not tough. The fat melts on the tongue. It is delicious. Genuinely delicious. Not exoticism for the sake of exoticism, but simply good food. Amikan eats silently, with concentration. Then he pulls a piece of frozen liver from inside his coat and shaves it with his knife into thin slices. Stroganina, another dish that in restaurants is served on white plates with microgreens, but here is eaten by hand beside a fire. I try it. The frozen liver melts in my mouth, leaving a taste I cannot describe. Something between butter and a slight bitterness. Amikan looks at my face, and for the first time in 2 days, breaks into a wide smile. "Do you like it?" he asks. "I like it," I answer, and it is the truth. At night, I lie in my sleeping bag and listen to the sounds. The crackling of wood in the stove, the breathing of Ilkin and Darima, the quiet whimpering of the dogs in their sleep, a distant howl at the very edge of hearing. Wolves. Bira raises her head, listens, then lowers it again. Far away, not dangerous. I trust Bira more than any instrument. On the morning of the 4th day, we arrive at the new pasture, a wide valley between 2 hills, covered with a thick layer of snow. Beneath the snow is lichen, reindeer bread. The reindeer know this before we do. They quicken their pace, lower their heads, begin pawing at the snow. The sound is as if 100 people were simultaneously scraping shovels on asphalt. Ilkin stands and watches, satisfied. There is plenty of lichen, enough for 3 to 4 weeks, then another migration. Again taking down the tent, loading the sleds, walking through the taiga, and so all winter, and all spring. And in summer too, only in summer because of the mosquitoes, of which there are so many here that the air hums. I ask Ilkin whether he would like to live in a settlement. There is a shop there, a school, a paramedic station. There is no need to migrate. He is silent for a long time, then he speaks. In the settlement, reindeer get sick. People do too. This is not a metaphor. This is a fact. Evenki who move to settlements lose their reindeer. The animals cannot stay in one place. They need to move to search for new lichen. And people in settlements start getting sick. Diabetes, alcoholism, depression. Diseases that nomadic Evenki do not know. Movement is life, literally. Day 5. I am helping Darima process a hide. More precisely, I am trying to help. She gives me a scraper carved from a reindeer shoulder blade and shows me how to remove the flesh. The motion must be even, with consistent pressure, always in one direction. Darima does it perfectly. Thin shavings of flesh fly from under the scraper like wood shavings from under a plane. My work comes out ragged, crooked, and slow. In 10 minutes, I processed an area the size of a palm. Darima, in the same time, did half the hide. She does not laugh. She patiently corrects my grip, shows me the angle of inclination. But I see in her eyes that expression a professional gets when watching a first-day trainee. A mixture of patience and mild horror. The hide after processing will become soft as suede. From it, Darima will sew unti, winter footwear. The thread is reindeer sinew, dried and split into thin fibers. The needle is an ordinary steel one, but the sewing technique is special. A double seam that lets neither water nor wind through. I saw Darima seams up close. They are more even than machine stitching. Every stitch is the same length, each one the same distance from the last. This is not sewing. This is art. Reindeer sinew is used to make more than just thread. It is braided into bowstrings. It is made into snares for birds. It is used to knit nets for fish. Reindeer sinew is nature's Kevlar. Stronger than rope, lighter than wire, it does not rot in the cold. Glue is boiled from hooves. I am not joking. Reindeer hooves, boiled down in water to a thick jelly, yield a glue that holds like iron. It is used to bond birch bark containers, to attach arrowheads, to repair skis. When Ilkin says that everything in a reindeer is useful, he is not exaggerating by a single gram. 6th evening. I sit by the stove and write down in my notebook everything I have learned. The list of uses for a single reindeer fills 2 pages in small handwriting. Meat, blood, fat, liver, heart, kidneys, lungs, stomach, intestines, hide, fur, suede, sinew, bones, bone marrow, antlers, hooves, bladder, stomach contents. I counted 19 items. Possibly I missed something. Ilkin sits down beside me and looks at my list. He cannot read Russian, but he understands what I am writing down. He points at my notebook and says one word.
23. I recount. Apparently, I really did miss something. 4 items. I never found out which ones exactly. Some secrets remain secrets. 7th day. The last.
In the morning, a sled arrives at the camp. It is the neighboring family, the Ultrgashevs. They migrate 20 kilometers from here and have come for meat. This year, they have few reindeer, only 40 head. A bad year. Wolves took 8, and another 3 died from disease. Without a single word, Ilkin brings out from the tent a hind leg, a piece of brisket, and a bag of frozen blood. He gives it away. Just like that. Without bargaining, without receipts, without obligations. This is not charity. This is a system. The Evenks share meat because they know that in the next bad year, they will be the ones who need help. It is an insurance company without an office or paperwork. A millennia-old system of mutual aid that works better than any social fund. The Ultrgashev children, a boy of about 6 and a girl of about 9, immediately grab a piece of dried meat each and run off to play. The girl bites off a chunk on the run and laughs. The boy falls into the snow, gets up, brushes himself off with one hand because the other holds the meat, and runs on. A universal scene. Children are the same everywhere, whether in Moscow or at -50 in the Evenki taiga. Darima and Ultrgashev's wife, Samelik, sit by the stove and discuss something in Evenki. I do not understand the words, but I understand the intonation. It is an ordinary conversation between 2 women, probably about children, or about husbands, or about the lichen not being as thick this year as last. Ordinary life, just different scenery. In the evening, Ilkin walks me to the place where the snowmobile is waiting, 6 kilometers through the taiga. The silence is such that I can hear the snow falling, not the wind, not the creaking of trees. The very sound of falling snow. A quiet rustle, almost soundless, but in the absolute silence of the taiga, it fills the entire space. Ilkin walks ahead. His silhouette against the white snow looks as if cut from dark paper. He does not turn around. He knows I am following. He hears my steps. My steps, incidentally, are 3 times louder than his. I crunch, squeak, and puff. He glides. At the snowmobile, we stop. Ilkin takes a bundle from inside his coat. He unwraps it. Inside is a piece of dried meat and a small bag of frozen blood the size of a fist. The road is long, he says. It will come in handy. I take the bundle and do not know what to say. Thank you seems too small a word. But Ilkin does not wait for words. He nods, turns, and walks back into the taiga. Within a minute, his silhouette dissolves into the whiteness, as if the taiga took him back. I sit on the snowmobile and look at the bundle in my hands. Dried meat and frozen blood. Food that is thousands of years old. Food that allowed an entire people to survive where almost no one else can. 300 grams of blood a day. That is the whole secret. The snowmobile starts on the 3rd attempt. The engine roars, breaking the silence. I turn around one last time. Behind me is the taiga, the snow, the silence. Somewhere out there, 20 kilometers away, Darima is setting up the tent. Amikon is checking tracks. Bira is sniffing the air. The reindeer are pawing through the snow. And Ilkin, the man who knows 23 ways to use a single reindeer, sits by the stove and drinks broth made from bones. Smoke from the tent rises into the black Arctic sky, a thin white thread against the stars, the only sign of life for hundreds of kilometers around. But this smoke has been rising for thousands of years, and it will keep rising as long as there are reindeer, as long as there is taiga, as long as there are people who remember that blood is not just a liquid. It is an elixir. It is a bond. It is life. If you found it interesting to spend this week with me in the Evenki taiga, subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories ahead about people who live in ways we have long forgotten. And leave a comment. Tell me whether you could drink a mug of fresh reindeer blood at -50. I could. and I still feel that warmth.